Hi, I'm Miss LeBeau. I teach 4th grade at North Wayne Elementary School. This is room 19. We're here with Mr. Crosslin today to learn about inherited traits. I brought a couple special guests. I breed guinea pigs, and we studied the parents and children and looked at the traits that they have inherited from their parents. We also made some predictions about some upcoming baby guinea pigs that will be born very soon.
Hey, that's pretty exciting. So this class has already got a head start on something we call genetics. And so in today's lesson, we're going to kind of be introduced to genetics and the father of science of genetics, Gregor Mendel, who was a scientist and a monk who had some strange questions or some great questions about peas that he grew in his garden. But in this classroom, they're growing Brassica Rapa, a plant, and they're also raising guinea pigs. And I see this is their guinea pig genetics. And the two things I'm really excited about is the word characteristics, which is a feature or a quality of a plant or an animal. It's like zebras have stripes. Brassica Rapa has yellow flowers. I have curly hair. Those are all traits. And each of us are made up of a lot of different types of traits. And where do we get these traits? Well, if you look up here, you'll know that we get traits from our father and our mother. I didn't get mine from the guinea pigs. I got them from my mom and my dad. So, what is these traits? Well, for a guinea pig, it could be, well, they have 4 legs, they have 2 eyes, and they have fur. And this is where it gets really interesting, because guinea pigs have different styles of fur and different colors of fur. You know, these came from South America and they're popular around the world, but what makes them popular is that you get a diverse, or you get lots of different types of guinea pigs. Everybody loves a brown guinea pig, but when you get one that's white with a black eye or white with fluffy brown fur, it's very interesting when those grow up and have offspring. Offspring are what comes from the mother and the father. And it could be like me, I came from my mom and dad, or it could be like a seed that came from your plant. And we're going to learn how we can help pass on characteristics to our next generation, or our next offspring. So the next word is inherited. Inherit, to receive a characteristic from your parents. Let me ask you a question. So, has anybody ever have an object that they inherited from their mom or their dad or their grandparents? An object is a little bit different. Go ahead.
Yes, my dad's grandpa, well, he had a necklace that was like from long ago, which his dad gave to him. Now my dad gave it to me, and then I'm gonna give it to my son. And then I just keep going. Okay.
Did you hear that? It was like a necklace that was passed from your grandfather to your father to you, and you'll pass it to your son. That's kind of like an inherited trait, but it's not a trait, it's an actual object. And you, yes?
My grandmother gave my mother a bracelet, and my mother gave it to me.
A bracelet that was passed from your grandmother to your mother to you. Inherited traits are kind of like that, except for they can't take them back. Once you get an inherited trait, it's with you. Okay, so let's take a look at some traits, some inherited, how do you spell that?
INHERITED.
You know, traits or characteristics. And let's look at some that are from an animal and some that are from a plant, okay? You got that? And you have your worksheet. And let's make a list of animal and plant traits. Okay, who would like to share some of these that you might? What can an animal have that it can pass on to the next offspring? Yes? Okay, the color of fur. Excellent. What else? Yes?
Same color eyes.
The eye color. Wow, that's so cool. Eye color. All right? Yes?
Maybe if they're a zebra, they can pass on like the stripes.
Okay. Any kind of stripes? I'll tell you what, let me give you a chance. Let me give you a chance to work on these out and we'll come right back. Okay, so what are some of the animal traits that might be inherited?
Color fur,
Eye color,
stripes, big in sizes.
and fingerprints.
Excellent. That was great. So and let's take a look now at some, I'm going to use green, some plant characteristics that are passed down. So let's get a couple of these. What do you think? What are some plant characteristics? Yes.
The stem.
Oh, the stem. Like the stem. Is it the color of the stem or the shape of the stem? Or does it have spines? What else? Yes. Oh, the leaf. All right, the leaf. And it could be the shape of the leaf. You know, is it round? Is it jagged? Is it like a pine needle? Let's take a look at some more characteristics of plants. So what are some characteristics of a plant?
Stem color or shape.
Stem color or shape,
Leaf shape.
leaf shape,
Roots.
roots,
Textures.
textures,
Size.
size,
Flower.
the flowers. Yeah, all of those can be inherited or passed down. Excellent. Hey, those are some great inherited traits from animals and plants. But you know what? It's funny. Gregor Mendel discovered something really kind of interesting, and I want you guys to see if you understand what I'm talking about. Let me ask you a question. What if you had some tall plants, some really tall plants, and then you took and crossed those with some small plants? What would their offspring be like? What do you think? If you had a tall plant and a small plant and you crossed them, what would their offspring be like? What do you think? Yes.
Tall?
Tall. They could be tall. What else could they be? They might be
Medium size?
medium sized. A lot of people think that if you put a tall and a small, you get a medium. Or they could be small. Most people would think you take somebody tall, like, I don't know, you guys heard of the basketball player, Shaquille O'Neal?
Yeah.
He's giant. Now, when he got married, his wife is probably not that tall. Are their kids going to be big? Are their kids going to be small? Are their kids going to be medium? Well, that's what you would think, but traits are not like that. Here's what I'm going to show you. Traits are, and I'm going to do this with some interesting things I made here. Let's see if I can find these. So let's say we have a mom seed that's green, all right? And we have a dad seed. That's a symbol for man, that's a symbol for woman. And so we have these green seeds or green plants, and they look green. They look green on the outside, and if you looked inside of the cells, they were green. Pure green. If you had a pure green and a pure green, what do you think the offspring would be? Any ideas? Yes.
Like in this gender?
If this is a green mom and a green dad, what would you expect the babies to be? Green. You'd expect them to be green, okay? Let me show you what Gregor Mendel and other scientists use to try to figure out the probability that probably if you have a pure green mom and a pure green dad leaf, you're going to get offspring that are green. Let's take a look at how they figure that out. Okay, so scientists have come up with a square that looks like this. Okay? Here's a square, and it's called a Punnett Square. Now, you have one on your worksheet. Let's go back to our green mom and green dad. So here's our mom over here. And here's our dad over here. And he looks green on the outside and on the inside. Got that? So let's say green is a capital G and a capital G. Now, even this dad right here, he got his green from his mom and dad. That's why I'm doing two of those. Got that? This is kind of hard to understand, and this is just part of the story, but it's a good place to start, okay? Let's look at the mom. She's green on the inside and outside. And so she got a big G and a big G from her mom and
Dad.
So let's do something kind of cooler. Let's see what the probability is that the color of their babies will be. Ready? Go ahead and write this on your first square. So this G right here and this G, when they go together, what do I put here? Green and green. This G right here and this G right here, what do I get? Green and green. You know what? I should probably change those to green and green so you can see them. Let's make, I have a green marker. Let's do that. Ready? So this would be this baby is probably going to be a green. This baby is probably going to be a green. Now let's look what the probability of this one is. Here, big G, what do you think? GG. And big G, what do you think? GG. So if a pure guinea pig, if we had a green guinea pig, okay, and it was pure, both, when they say pure, that means that the color is both on the outside and the inside of the genes, right? The baby should be like this. One green, two greens, three greens, and finally the fourth green. So if we had a pure, you understand this trait, if it was a mom and dad, the probability would be that all four of the babies would be green. Got that?
Yes.
But it's not that simple. Let's take a look how it usually is.
Okay, so we have already in room 19 talked a little bit about Punnett squares. When we first looked at the parent and offspring guinea pigs, our first thought was, well, the daughter got being a girl from her mom, and the son got being a boy from his dad. But we actually learned that both of them, it comes from their dad. We learned that the girls, the code for being a girl is XX, and the code for being a boy is XY, and that you got one trait from your mom and one trait from your dad.
Well, that's a great explanation for guinea pigs, but there's something weird that goes on. It's not that simple. You see, many times a green, an animal that has a green, also has a yellow inside of it. Sometimes a trait has from the mom and the dad, and it's really interesting. You can't be both. You don't want to have a guinea pig, or maybe you do. You don't want to have something part green, part yellow. So here's what happens. Often one of these is kind of takes over and is bigger than the other. We call that, there's a fancy word for that, it's called dominant. This one dominates this. So even though this organism has green and yellow, green always beats it out. Now how does that look? It looks like this. So the dad over here would be a big G and a small g. See what this is? Big G and small g. And which color do you think always takes over or dominates? Yes? The big G. So this would look green, but inside of its cells and DNA would be yellow, just waiting to come out. Now, let's say this dad had offspring with a mom that looked green, but inside she also carried the yellow. What would the offspring look like, knowing that green is dominant? Would they all be green? Would they all be yellow? Would they be half and half? What do you think?
Yellow.
Yellow. Green. Well, let's use the Punnett Square to find out what they probably might be. So there's the dad. Here's the mom. And let's do the math. Ready? So we know that this one right here, this gene and this gene together is going to be go ahead and write this, a big G and a small g, right? We know that this G and this little g, what's that going to be? Big G and little g. What color is this going to be? Green, because green is big G. What color is this one going to be? Green, because that dominates, right? It dominates, right? That big G will cover up that, right? Yeah. Let's go to this second. Here's a small g, right? And what's up here?
Big G.
Big G.
Big G.
Who's going to dominate here?
Yellow.
No, which is big. Green always yellow.
Big. Green.
It's going to be green. But now it gets very interesting. Look here. Little G and little G. What color is that one going to be?
Yellow.
Yellow. And it's probably going to be yellow. And this is what Gregor Mendel discovered. That when you have something that's mixed like this, you're going to end up getting 3 of them that look green and 1 of them that looks yellow. And that's pretty cool that he discovered that. And that's why your mom might have brown eyes and your dad might have blue eyes. And the chances are, since brown is dominant, all your brothers and sisters are going to have brown eyes, but not always, because of the probability that something like this would happen.
Okay, so something else we can look at with our Punnett squares is our guinea pigs. We've learned that for guinea pigs, the short-haired gene is the more dominant, the stronger one. So a lot of my guinea pigs are just like Mr. Crosslin said. They have one gene that you see on the outside, but they've got a long-haired gene on the inside. So big H means they've got short hair that's stronger. Little h means they've got long hair. So then if I had 2, a mother and a father that both had short hair on the outside and a long hair gene hidden on the inside, what are their offspring going to look like?
Short on the outside. Short on the inside. Short, but then long hair on the inside.
So I want you on your squares, let's start to figure out what is each baby going to look like. So I've got big H, little h. Going to turn out like, yep.
H short.
So let's see, am I going to have big H or little h first?
Big H.
Big H and what else?
Big H.
Big H, big H, big H. So what kind of fur is this baby going to have?
Short.
Short. Let's come down here. I have, what do I have from here? Big H and little h. So what's stronger?
Short
Hair. So this baby's going to have short hair. Let's come over here. We have, what do we have from up here? What kind of H?
Big H.
Big H and
Little H.
what do I have?
Big H.
Big H. And what's this baby going to look like?
Short hair.
And down here, what do I have though?
Little H.
Little H and so this baby will have long hair. So the probability is that these babies will have short hair, but one baby will have long hair.
You know, that is excellent. Now, there's a lot more to learn than this, and the genes always don't turn out this way because they've had millions of generations of mothers and fathers and offsprings coming from them. What gets real interesting is when these start growing up, what if 2 HHs have offspring, or what if this? And that's where it gets to be fascinating, and that's how diverse organisms are continually to be in the offspring. I'll tell you, Gregor Mendel from a long time ago would be so happy to be in this classroom to see how you kids are learning about genetics. And now let's take a look at our plant and how we're going to help our Brassica Rapa pass traits inherited from the mother and the father down to the offspring. And I'll tell you, here's the secret. You guys are going to have to do the work of the bees. Buzz, bees. Okay, so in each of our classrooms, we've been growing Brassica Rapa. And when I say growing, because growing means that they are getting bigger, but they're also developing. So let's take a look at some of these up close and see what's going on right here. Okay, so you see that on this Brassica Rapa, it's growing. That means it's getting bigger, but it also is developing. It has new leaves. In fact, the first 2 leaves were wrapped in the seed, but this is a new leaf. So growing means getting bigger, developing means new parts. And so this is your first new part. On your plants, you have true leaves, but you're also, you know what you're also going to get? Roots, stems, and flowers. And that's called a life cycle. Let's make some drawings of this, okay? Go ahead and put those back in there, Brooke. Oh, good. You're putting the wick down in the water because all these plants have basic needs. The temperature's right, the light's right, and the water's right. Okay, let's look a little bit closer at this plant. And our plant that we're growing is called Brassica Rapa. And it's called Rapa is because it goes through its life cycle in about 40 days. That's pretty quick. So, you've already started with some of these phases of the life cycle. We started with a what? Seed. And then that little seed cracked open. It cracked open and up came a little leaf and down went a root. That's what's called a sprout. Or it germinated. Everybody say the word germinate.
Germinate.
Germinate means to crack open and start to grow. And so you have that. Growing means to get bigger. So grow means what? Bigger, right?
Yes.
Are your plants growing? Yes. And develop means D-E-V-L-O-P-E, right? Develop means new parts or change, new parts. Okay? Did I spell develop right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I always want to check my spelling. So, 1, seed. 2, sprout. 3, this is going to be cool. Watch. The roots are going to go down. This is your third little drawing. So we have the roots, and here's that first leaf. Here's that first leaf. But now I saw true leaves. A true leaf, and I want you guys to look at these leaves. Talk about different. This one is flat. This one has veins. But don't take my word for it. Look at it yourself. So now we have the plant, and finally, well, not finally, but the fourth one, guess what's coming next? After the roots are going to keep to grow, the stem's going to come up, there's going to be leaves. What do you think is going to come next?
The flower.
The flower buds, more leaves, and up is going to come a flower. So you're going to end up with a mature plant that has a flower, it has a leaf, it has a stem, and it has roots. And your job in the next week or so is to learn at least 2 things for each one of these. 2 jobs of the leaf, 2 jobs of the flower, 2 jobs of the stem, 2 jobs of the roots. I'm not going to tell you. I want you to figure it out. But there's one more step in the life cycle. Seed, sprout, grow, develop, adult. What happens to every organism at the end of its life cycle? Yes? It dies. And it's going to be okay that our plants die, and they're going to end up looking like this. No flowers, no leaves, but they're going to have something called, anybody know what these are going to be? Seed pods. Seed pods. So the 5th part is when the plant is dead, but the plant might be dead, but what goes on? What are the offspring?
The seeds.
The seeds. The seeds are the offspring that go on. Seed, sprout, grow and develop, mature plant, seeds, and it starts over. I'm going to write something and we're going to come back to it. This is a formula I like to use. Everybody write this, and maybe you'll tell me what it means later. Right about here. P plus F equals seeds. I want you to think about that and wonder what I mean by P plus F equals seeds. Let's take a look at where P plus F takes place.
Okay, leaf.
Okay, so remember I told you you're going to have to do the job of the bees? You're going to do the job of the bees? On day 14, 15, and 16, you have to help the plants pollinate and become fertilized. Without pollinate and fertilize, there'll be no seeds. So let's draw one big picture of the flower. So here's the stem coming up. Here's part of the flower. Go ahead and draw this. And this part is kind of interesting. On the Brassica Rapa, the middle of the flower looks like that. And it has you can't see inside of it, but if you could, it would look like this on the inside with little bitty parts of a seed. Those aren't seeds yet, but they might become one.
Okay.
This part of the flower is the female part of the flower, and it's called a pistil. P-I-S, that's a neat word, pistil. Draw that and label that. Now, if a flower has a female part, doesn't it also have to have a male part?
Yeah.
Here they are. And our flower has like 4 of them. One coming up here, kind of weird looking like that, and weird looking like that. And one coming up here like this, and one coming up here like this. And those are the male parts of the flower, and they are called stamen. S-T-A-M-E-N. Stamen. Now, what's kind of cool about the stamen is they have something on their tips. They have something on their tips. So I'm going to put a bunch of little green dots here. Anybody have any idea what is in a flower that's kind of yellow and gets in the air? Some people sneeze, but a flower needs it. What is it? What?
Pollen.
Pollen. Pollen, yes. Go ahead and write the word pollen. Pollen are all these little green dots that I put here. Pollen comes from the stamen. Okay? Oh, there's also, I'll go ahead and draw these. There's also some petals. I'm just going to make them big. There's some petals. Okay? And even the petals have a job. We'll talk about that real quick. Okay, here's the cool part. Are you ready to see what your job's going to be? Are you ready? You are going to do the job of the bees. You're going to pollinate your flowers. You're going to take a little paintbrush that I put by their kit, and on days 14, 15, and 16, you're going to come over here with your paintbrush, and you're going to pick up some pollen. Bzzz, and you're going to land on your flower. Now, bees land on flowers because flowers say, hey, look, I got pretty petals. Come land here. Hey, bees, come here. I have sugar water to give you. It's called nectar. So a bee lands on a flower, drinks. Ah, thanks. But the whole time the bee is getting covered in pollen. And when the bee goes to the next flower to drink, that next flower goes, ah, thanks. I needed that. Because here's what happens. When you take your paintbrush, you get pollen from one flower, you're going to fly to another plant. You got that? Fly to another plant, not the same one, and then you're going to touch it right here. Ding, 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 ding. And the plant's going to say, ah, thanks, I needed that. Well, it won't say that, but the plant needs it. Here's what happens. Watch. When you take pollen from one flower and land it on the pistil of another flower, here's what happens. That pollen goes down here, ding, 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 ding. And in here, it changes, and this is where it is fertilized. It gets fertilized right there. That is why pollinization, when you touch pollen here, we call that pollinization, and then the flower does the rest. The pollen goes down, and you're going to see something amazing happen. You know what's going to happen? Here's what's going to happen. It's crazy. The flower goes, ah, thanks, I needed that. Now I'm fertilized. I'm fertilized. I don't need petals anymore. So the petals are going to fall off.
We gotta erase that.
No, don't erase it, I'll do it. And then the flower's going to go, not really, but I just do that for effect. The flower's going to say, don't need stamens anymore. The stamens are going to go. And pretty soon, this whole part is going to grow, and it's going to change. And it's going to change. And it's going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's going to turn into, guess what it's going to turn into?
Flower.
Tree.
A seed pod. That flower will transform into a seed pod. And that is cool. It won't do it without your help. Some plants, the wind does it. Some plants, bats do it, moths do it. You know, some plants, ants do it, insects, bees do it a lot. Let's take a look at a life cycle of Brassica Rapa. Okay, so online, here is a picture of Brassica Rapa, and it's starting to grow. You can see it, it's growing, and now it's going to develop. Develop when there's new parts coming. There's some new parts. And you're going to see in just a minute, up comes the true leaves. This was videotaped over several days. Here comes the true leaves. Next come the flower buds. Check it out. There's a flower bud right there in the middle. See it? Isn't that beautiful? You're going to see this in a few days in your plants. There they open up. Boom, there are the 4 petals. Here are the petals. And right about there. Let me show you that. Can you see that thing right there? That's the pistil. And these yellow things, those are the stamens. And you have to pollinate, which will allow to fertilize, and then we'll get some seeds. Let's see what happens. Check it out. Here comes a flower. And watch, there is the pistil, and it's been pollinated and fertilized, and look what it does. It turns and turns into a giant seed pod. And it will not do that unless you pollinate to allow it to fertilize. Pretty cool. So, whether we're talking about guinea pigs or Brassica Rapa or even humans, there's a lot to learn about how traits are inherited and passed down to our offspring. It's what's made us what we are. Good luck on your project. I'll see you next time.